Hello all, welcome to this session. In this session, I am going to answer one of the Java interview questions. That is, what happens when the exception is not handled in Java? Let me answer. When you don't handle an exception in Java, the Java program will throw the exception to the JVM and JVM will immediately stop the execution of the program there itself wherever the exception has been thrown. Okay, in the line where the exception has been thrown, there itself the Java program will stop running. The remaining portion of the code after the exception won't be executed. Let me prove you that in a practical way so that you will be able to understand the answer for this question in a better way. So what happens when the exception is not handled in Java? But how to handle the exception using try-catch block? If you don't use try-catch block to handle an exception, if an exception occurs in the Java code, a particular line, that line will throw an object of that particular exception class, okay, to the JVM, which is actually running the program. JVM, once it receives an object from that exception class, it will stop the program immediately at that particular line where the exception has been thrown from. The remaining portion of the code won't be executed. The remaining lines of code won't be executed, guys. I'll show you. You can see it here as a practical demonstration. I'll take a very simple exception and what happens. I'll just create a class 20. I'll give some number like random number 26 with main method. Okay, inside this class, inside the main method, I'm going to write some print statements because I just want to show you that this particular execution has started. Okay, program executions, program started here. Let's say program started here. Okay, program started here like this. I'll just copy paste this one multiple times so that we can see that. Assume that these are the lines of the code we have in our program. Assume that these are the lines of the code we have in our program. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, just write it here like this. And here I'll write down system.out.println end of this program. End of this program. End of this program. Okay. Program started here, end of this program. This particular line I'll write multiple times. This particular line I'll write multiple lines so that we can see that that is the end of the program. This is the starting of the program. Four times I am printing. Okay. And in between this starting and ending lines, here program ended here. I have to say program ended here. Program started. Program ended here. Okay. Program ended here. Program ended here. Program started here. Program ended here. That's it. Okay. So program started here. Program ended here. In between that, at the line 12, I'm writing int a is equal to 9 divided by 0. Intentionally, I'm trying to divide a number by 0, guys. What happens when you try to divide a number by 0 in Java? Java will give you an exception, okay, known as arithmetic exception. That exception will not come during the compile time. After I run the code, while the program is getting executed, when the line 12 gets executed, the line 12 will throw an object of a predefined exception class. In this case, arithmetic exception class related object will be thrown. To whom it will be thrown? To the JVM. Because I'm not handling the exception here, I'm not surrounding this particular statement with try-catch block. So it's free to throw the exception, the object of that particular arithmetic exception predefined class to the JVM of the Java. And the JVM, which is responsible for running this program, once it receives the object of the arithmetic exception, it will immediately stop the program at this line 12 itself. Whatever the statements that are there after the line 12 won't be executed, guys. This is a problem with the exception, okay? What happens when the exception is not handled using try-catch block in Java? The remaining lines of code, the answer is the remaining lines of the code after the exception has occurred in this particular line won't be executed. After the line 12, the line 12 is a line where arithmetic exception occurred and this line has thrown the object of the arithmetic exception predefined class to the JVM. JVM will stop the execution of this program here itself where the exception has come from, and the remaining lines of the code won't be executed. Here program started here, program started here, program started here, program started will be started here will be printed 4 times. After that, when this particular line comes, the program will stop there because of the exception, and remaining lines of the code, that is program ended here, won't be printed, guys. This remaining print statements won't be printed. The program started here, program started here, program started here, program started here, and we got the exception here. And after the exception, you see program ended here is not printed, okay? The lines of the code which are coming after the exception in the program, because they have not handled here, are not printed. Only program started here got printed, and the exception got occurred in the line 12. After the line 12, whatever the lines of code are there, they didn't get executed. This is what is the answer for this question, guys. So what happens when the exception is not handled in Java? Generally, we handle the exception using try-catch block. If you don't handle the exception, that particular line which gives the exception exception will throw the object of that particular exception class to the JVM, and JVM will stop the execution of the code at there itself where the exception has occurred, in the line itself where the exception has occurred. All the lines of the code which are followed by the exception line will not be executed. Okay, the program execution will stop. Remaining lines of code in the program, remaining lines of code in the program after the exception won't be executed, won't be executed. Okay, won't be executed. Remaining lines of the code in the program after the exception won't be executed. Okay, this is what is the problem that comes when you don't handle the exceptions using try-catch block in your Java programs. With practical demonstration, I've answered this question for you. So that's all for this session. Thank you. Bye-bye.